Small business war stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes. Hey, lovers of small businesses and good stories in general. Welcome to episode 130 of Small Business War Stories. And today we stopped in Wichita, Kansas, and interviewed Stacy Ward Lattin, who is one of the co-founders of Hopping Gnome Brewery. Wichita is an amazing place. It's got an emerging art scene. There's a college there, and a lot of people are creating businesses there and creating a community of people who care. And Stacy is a part of that, and she shares a lot of what it's like to have a really, really cool brewery in an up-and-coming part of town. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Gusto. And Gusto helps you manage all the things that are a pain to do, things like payroll and benefits. Out of all the people I've interviewed, virtually nobody started a business to deal with all that stuff. But Gusto makes it easy for you. So go check out Gusto, gusto.com/war stories. And you'll get 3 free months when you run your first payroll. So I cannot wait for us to get into the episode here with Stacy Ward Lattin. And she has some really cool stories. And she also has a tattoo of their beer called the HBIC, which is a term I did not know, but now I do after the show. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode, number 130, with Stacy Ward Lattin in Wichita, Kansas. And we are live here in beautiful Wichita, Kansas. And today I have the pleasure and honor to sit here with Stacy Ward Lattin, and she is the co-owner of Hopping Gnome Brewery. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're the HBIC around here, I hear.
I am. That's the name of our famous sour beer. That's one of our top sellers, and it's named after me.
There you go. And there's an awesome label here on the wall and on your arm that's tattooed as well with the HBIC icon. I love that. And it's a term I had not heard before.
Well, we do not have a trademark on that, so I will say that.
So is that like something you came up with?
It's from way back. If you remember that show Flava Flav.
Okay.
That's what it's from.
There you go.
So we tell people we call it HBIC sour. So nobody has that, but it's not we don't have that part trademarked. But we do have Hopping Gnome trademarked.
Hopping Gnome is trademarked. Got
yes.
it. So let's go back here. So Hopping, you have a really interesting. There are a couple of things that really attracted me to your business. You have a great beer, which I tried before I came here in Wichita. You also have a really unique design ethic with everything that you do with your graphics and the way you communicate your message and your brand. And you also have a really big emphasis on what it means to consume and buy local. So I'd love to. These are all the things that kind of brought me here in the first place. How is it that we are sitting here today? We're here in what's this neighborhood called in Wichita?
This is called the Douglas Design District,
okay.
And it's named that for primarily it's a lot of like marketing, architecture, interior design businesses
okay.
In the area, and then we also have a lot of more recently a lot of murals painted by local artists. And things like that. And so this is kind of it's a little east of our main downtown area, but it's kind of the up and coming neighborhood that we're revitalizing.
Yeah,
so
and it's got that feel. It's got that feel where it's like the art and the power of different small businesses making it happen here. So it has that sort of feel to it. How did we end up here? So we're sitting here. You have a tap room in the front, which you mentioned before we started rolling was the first tap room in Wichita, right?
Yeah. So we actually got the idea to do this probably about, I'm going to say it was 2012. We were on vacation in Colorado, Denver, Boulder, kind of that Longmont, Fort Collins area.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband, Tori, had been a home brewer for a while and had entered some competitions and had done pretty well. And we were enjoying some small tap rooms that didn't serve food, and this is something that we didn't have in Wichita. We only had 2 breweries at the time, and one had just opened, so it really had just been one. Both were brew pubs, so they had full, food, restaurant, full bar, everything. And we love the idea of just focusing on the beer, having a little place where people could play games, and we noticed college students doing their homework, and just having a just different vibe, kind of coffee shop, but with beer.
Yeah.
And so we started talking about it, and he had this crazy idea to maybe start something, because we were both at this point where, and you see this a lot in Kansas and in Wichita, where you get to a point in your life where you're like, okay, we're going to stay here forever. Are we going to move somewhere bigger? That's kind of, we tend to lose some of our talent, because, Wichita's a nice sized city, but it's not, we don't have the mountains, we don't have the rivers and things like that. So it was one of those things where we just started talking about, well, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I worked in nonprofit. Okay. So I said, you can brew somewhere, and I'll just get a job and we can move wherever. And he goes, I really think Wichita could use this. I think this is a time where people were starting to show a little more pride. The flag behind me is our Wichita flag. That wasn't a thing, and it's been around forever, but it wasn't the thing until probably about 10 years ago. Started getting popular about 5 years ago.
It's a big thing now. I mean, I see it everywhere.
It's a big thing now.
So I played last night at a place called the New Stadium, and there I met some folks who were rocking the Wichita flag. One of the folks had a version of it where there's a guitar, and a blue guitar in the center of it. So it's something that like people really rally around. And you're saying that's relatively new.
Yeah, relatively new. It was designed in the 30s, so the flag itself is not new, but the pride and just people flying it, you see it everywhere. Businesses, the university, it's just become this pride in the city. This is around the time when the buy local movement really started taking off, and so we're like, oh, this could be a thing, and we could start this tap room. And I think he thought I was going to say no, and I said, let's do it.
Okay.
So that was in 2012. It took us a few years to get some loans together. We worked with the small business administration here, and we have some kind of local organizations that really help you get started, and kind of, because we didn't know what to do. We'd never owned a business before. We worked with other businesses. The brewing community is very helpful here. We're very tight-knit. It's not that cutthroat competition that you see in a lot of industries, and you'll find that almost anywhere. Brewing communities, we're all family. We all stick together.
I mean, the rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Yeah.
The more that people see Wichita as a place where you go for breweries, everybody benefits, right? I think it's interesting that as I go around the country, some places have that mentality more than others. There are some places that have more of a zero-sum mentality, where it's like you making a penny takes a penny off my table. Whereas there are other places where there's more of that collaborative vibe. Why do you think that Wichita has that? Because I feel that here. I feel it's a collaborative vibe. I feel the art vibe. And I'd heard about it before I came here.
Oh, that's
which
good.
is why I chose to come here. I mean, there's places like Wichita, Tulsa's another one that is like a big artist community where people are coming and making things happen. Why do you think that is?
I think we always have had an entrepreneurial spirit here in Wichita, and this is where Pizza Hut started. This is where, this is just a lot of the aircraft were just small businesses to start with, and of course got much bigger.
Yeah, Cessna's here, right?
Yeah. So a rich history of people just kind of getting started here, and so and as we we don't have to compete necessarily against. I think with breweries, it's not necessarily competing against the Budweiser and the big ones. We're not really competing against them. There's room for everyone, but I think it is kind of this camaraderie where we all, and it's not about, like you said, it rises all ships. It's not about I need everybody to come to my brewery all the time. It's about promoting Wichita beer, Wichita craft beer, and Kansas craft beer.
Yeah.
And the same thing with other local restaurants and bars. Like you said, you were at a local restaurant and bar today, and they have our beer on tap, and they want to support. Everybody just wants to do that buy local thing and just support, because we know that's the thing now, and we don't want that to go away. And we're, everybody, it's like that, everybody's bringing back their main streets. Everybody's revitalizing their downtown, because we want to get back to that, where we might not be able to buy everything locally, but we can try. And the farmers markets are getting bigger and more popular, and it's just something that we always say in Kansas we're a little behind some of the trends, and it takes us a while to get there. We're in the Midwest, the very middle of the country, but it's really you can really tell that small businesses work together, and that's just, and it's inviting, and it's encouraged other people to open businesses. We encouraged our neighbors as a Neapolitan pizzeria, and they wanted to open here because they had just started coming in here, and they thought, well, hey, we like to make pizza, we can do this too. So.
And then you have the donut hole on the other end.
Yeah, the donut hole has been around since, I think 2006. And they have been on the Travel Channel. They have been all over. They have a ton of followers on social media. Kind of that voodoo donut vibe, and they were the first of its kind in this area. They kind of were on that cusp before. It seems like now there's donut places everywhere, but kind of before that, and they just have a fun, funky vibe. So it's a great block to be on, and we have more things coming in all the time, and we like our area, and all over downtown and across Wichita, we just have a really great small business community.
That's awesome. So we now are in this facility, which is what is this about? This is probably about 4,000 square feet or so.
Yeah. So we wanted a small space. So when we opened our doors in May of 2015, so we just celebrated our 4th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's gone by really fast. When we first got started, we were first looking for space, we had no idea that our space would be popular for people to come in after work and come in and have a beer on the weekends. And it really has become this community, which we're so happy about. We couldn't be more thrilled. It's what we wanted. We welcome everybody. We have a large demographic, in marketing, that's kind of my area, is the social media and marketing, and it's always like, what's your demographic? It needs to be specific. It's like, I get that, but we really do. We'll have, at any given time, we'll have people here that are 21 to 81, and we reach all, and it's a very, everybody feels really welcome. They've called it the Cheers of breweries.
All right.
The locals have they started calling it the Gnome, just for short, but we didn't know that. At first, we were expecting to distribute. And we don't can or bottle yet. We just do kegs. And so the plan was to just, we thought we were going to distribute, half of our beer that we made. We have a small 5-barrel system, and that maybe some people would come in here every once in a while and have a beer and take, growler, the bottle fills, the growlers to go. And we had no idea when we first opened. We were packed every night. We just started by opening on the weekends and kind of added in more days. And because at first, we just didn't know people would accept us, because we got a lot of questions about not serving food. We partnered with food trucks, and then later the pizza place opened next door, like I said, Piatto Pizza, and they actually, you can order over there and they'll deliver the pizza here, and you can bring in outside food, which in other areas around the country, that's pretty normal, and people are getting used to that, but it was new. It was a new concept. So we were pleasantly surprised and was very welcomed in the community. We were the 3rd microbrewery to open in Wichita, and now there's 10 of us.
Wow.
So it's really
that's
grown.
Incredible.
And
have you ever
more
thought
to
about,
come.
So one of the business models that's really taken off in Austin and in a few other cities that I've been to, that's where I live in Austin, is having beer in the afternoon and evenings and having coffee in the morning. So having coffee and beer all in one place. Is that something does anybody wish to do that? Have you thought about that?
We do have some places like that. Usually they either specialize in beer or coffee, and then they might have one or the other. But most of them are full restaurants. And that's something we kind of stay away from.
These are not full restaurants. These are places kind of like this one, where you also have coffee to kind of keep the flow going throughout the day.
Yeah. Then you have to be open all the time.
Yeah.
Which we have great staff. When we first opened, it was kind of just the 2 of us, and we had a couple part-time servers that would come in. And as we grew our hours and just our capacity, we've added fermenters, and we started with 6 fermenter tanks, which means you can have 6 beers fermenting at one time.
Okay.
And that usually takes 14 to 21 days. So you can't do any more than those 6. And then we added in 2 more after the first year, and then this last year we added in 2 more.
Wow.
Or 3 more, sorry. So we've almost doubled our capacity since we've opened.
11 now. Mm-hmm. So, is that right? So, hold on. So you have 11 fermenters back there. So just so our audience can get a sense, about 60% of the space is dedicated to
the brew house,
the brewery, and then 40% is the brew. What do you call it? Pub?
Just a tap room.
The tap room.
Yeah.
So the kind of open. Do you do tours ever or not?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We do.
But the part that's like where people come drink is about 40% of the space or so.
Yeah.
And then back there, do you do all your brewing in here, or do you do some contract?
Yes, it's all here. It's all done by my husband, Tori. Right now, he's the the head brewer and the only brewer.
Yeah, he looks like a brewer. I saw him back there. He's
a big red beard.
Yeah, there you go. That's
Yeah.
Part of the uniform.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
I'll never be able to do that.
So yeah, it's we've been pleasantly surprised, and I was talking about distribution and just how the local restaurants and bars have been so welcoming. And yeah, we thought we were going to have to send out 50% of the beer, but when we opened, we were so busy we kept running out of beer here in the tap room.
That's a high quality problem.
Yeah, so that was very, very eye opening. And as we've been able to grow and kind of dial it in, we've been able to increase our distribution to about 20-25%. So it's good for us right now. We're in a good spot where we like to be small. We didn't set out to be really big, but there's always room to grow as well.
Do you sell beer at supermarkets too, or is it mostly through other restaurants?
No, we just do keg distribution, so it's mostly bars and restaurants. No cans.
Okay.
No cans.
You have a crowling machine.
We have crowlers. Yeah.
I saw that. Is that,
so
can you call that crowling? Is crowling a verb? A crowling machine?
I don't know. We can say it is.
Yeah. There you go. Done. The HBIC says it is. So let it be so.
You just coined that term right now on the show.
Go.
Yeah, so we just kegs for now. And so bars and restaurants and liquor stores, and people buy kegs. People can come in and buy kegs for their, parties and weddings and hangouts and stuff. So
I mean, you have such incredible design and packaging. And we're going to get to that in a minute because I think that's a big, big deal for you in a good way. So given that, have you thought about putting it in cans? Because I think these cans would fly off the shelves.
Yeah, we've thought about it. We thought maybe the 5 to 10 year plan. We do have a couple local breweries that are canning. We're kind of seeing how the market goes. It's with the buy local movement we were discussing, there are more breweries everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's local breweries. So it's harder to break into some other markets because it's like, why do I care about you if I'm a different state in a different city and you're from this city in Kansas? We have our own local beer. Yeah. So just kind of seeing how that goes because it'd be a whole nother brew system, an upgrade, location. You have to get a canning line and all that
but
stuff.
But you could
starting a new business.
By canning and only selling, within a couple hundred miles of Wichita, right? Like
yes,
Kansas.
you could.
So
but we still have
that's
to.
What I think we're talking about. Mother's Brewing. They're in Springfield, Missouri, and they distribute. God, it's been about 100 episodes since I had them on the show, but I'm going to say that it was like the northern part of Arkansas, and then like part of Missouri, and like maybe a couple other but they have like a small footprint in terms of distribution, but they do sell outside of there.
And that's probably where the market is right now.
Okay.
Kind of the trend right now is just selling out of the tap room is where people are making where other breweries are making the most profit, but. Like you said, the cans look cool, and you'd have a lot more reach that way. I work with we have to go through a third-party distributor in the state of Kansas, so I can't just wheel my beer over to the neighbor next door. Yep. We have to go through, and so I work with the distributor. And it would, it's as easy as it is to get our kegs out there. It'd be a lot easier, in just for the customers too, if we had it in cans. Yeah. So
it's
I'm
on the road
there.
Now. It'd be very difficult for me to take a keg with me.
Yeah.
But I could take a 6-pack.
So we'll get you some crowlers to go.
There you go. Love it. By the way, what are we, before we continue, we're drinking a delicious beer here. I am drinking something called a Salty Gnome.
Salty Gnome. So that's what we call our Goza, which is a salty sour.
Yeah.
Sours have really taken off here in Kansas the last couple of years. Yeah. It's something that my husband, Tori, never thought he would brew. He thought it was like too frou-frou.
It's an acquired taste, but I really like them.
They're really popular. It's actually, our sours are some of our top sellers, especially in the summer. So we rotate flavors, so it's the same. It's just a kettle sour, which means you actually sour it with yogurt. Oh. And we just change the fruit flavor. Kind of, it's a seasonal, kind of a spring, summer. Yeah. So we had a margarita flavor on for Cinco de Mayo kind of time period, and we just tapped a watermelon. So that's what you're having. Yeah. And we just tapped, I'm having the Hugs. It's the hopped up gnome sour.
All right,
so
cheers.
It's a hoppy sour. Yeah. So sours. Yay.
There you go. And then you have I had before I came here the HBIC, which is a strawberry sour. Is that what it is?
So it's also one that we rotate. It's another kettle sour. So we keep the recipe the same, but we just change the fruit flavor. Okay. So it's strawberry rhubarb now, and it's kind of a seasonal thing.
Yeah.
We'll have like cherry in the winter and cranberry in the fall kind of thing.
Hey, we take a quick break here in our conversation with Stacy to talk about our sponsor, Gusto. And again, this is now an independent podcast, so we have sponsors to help us produce this. And when you go support our sponsors, it helps us. So Gusto is a company that helps you with your payroll, with your benefits, with handling the things that are really a pain to deal with, but that every small business, especially ones with employees, are going to have to deal with. If it's just you, this is might not be the best fit. But the moment you start adding more people and more complications, there is a whole bunch of things that happen that you have to take care of from a legal perspective, a tax perspective, and obviously people have to get paid. So Gusto helps you manage all that. Go check out gusto.com/warstories, WARSTORIES, and you get three free months when you sign up and run your first payroll. And we'll get back to Stacy in Wichita. So your beers are really, really good. Your design and your packaging and your marketing is off the charts. So let's talk about that. How did this idea, why a Hopping Gnome?
Yeah. So we had some other ideas for names, and when you start looking things up to make sure you're not stealing anybody's idea, we found that a lot of them were taken, or a lot of home brewers have their own websites and Twitter handles and stuff. So we were kind of frustrated, and one night my husband Tori went downstairs. We had, of course, some of his home brew on tap, and it was an IPA, and he was just kind of looking at our little bar in our basement, and we had a little gnome sitting there, which was a giveaway from a Kansas City Royals baseball game, where they give you like the bobbleheads and stuff at the. So it was a little gnome, like a Kansas City Royals gnome, and he looked at it and had the idea and ran upstairs and was like, what about Hopping Gnome? Like, hops are in the beer and gnomes are known for drinking. And I didn't like it at first. I thought it was too kitschy. And it's like, we're not really gnome people. I don't know. Because there's like gnome people out there.
Oh, really?
Like, no offense to anybody listening if you're like, because
What is it? What is a gnome person?
People, they just like collect gnomes. They're all about the, the gnomes. Okay. Most people might have like one in their garden, but there are. So we just, at first it was like, I don't know. And we looked it up, and there's some other gnome themed breweries, and there's actually more recently, and some gnome themed gastropubs and stuff. But there was nothing called Hopping Gnome. So we immediately got the website domain and Twitter handle, and this was like 2 years before we opened.
Yeah.
And then the logo we had designed by a local graphic designer. His name's Chris Parks, and he did a lot of the signage and logos and marketing for this Douglas Design District area. So
and a lot of the work that he's done is really good. He's done most of the labels, you said.
Yeah, he's done kind of all of our standard. We had 6 standard beers to start with, and he did all of those. And then some of the others, we've had some other local artists come in, or some of our staff, or just some of our customers have made us some art.
So a brand is more than just a logo and more than just the colors. What are the other things that, when you think about your brand, what are the other things that support that?
Well, when we started, I'd like to say social media was a little different. It was a little easier to share things. When we were first getting started, we did not set enough money aside with our loans for construction, and so we needed to raise a little money. So we did a Kickstarter campaign when that was kind of a new thing, and that was how we built up a lot of our social media following. And we took a lot of pictures. I want to say Twitter and Facebook were really popular. Instagram was kind of up and coming, and we took a lot of pictures with the beers. But before we could even make the beer, because you have to get licensing, and we were doing construction in our building, we just took a lot of pictures with like the gnomes, and we did a lot of videos with our friends, and just kind of created this community, like I said, that we really wanted people to just feel like themselves, like they could come in and enjoy a beer. Our joke was on our original website, we had, you can come in, because we had to tell people about there's no food, so you can come in and get, food from a food truck or bring food in. It's just, you can play a game with friends. It's like hanging out in your buddy's basement, except for you have to pay for the beer because we're trying to run a business here. That was the whole kind of idea behind it. So a lot with gnomes. There's only so many pictures you can take of gnomes and beers. You see that with all the breweries. We all try to get fancy with our lighting and the way the beer glass looks. And so started incorporating more as we got more of our customers with their permission. I started doing a lot more video when that kind of came on. I do a lot of Facebook Lives. We do a lot of events. That was something we started early on.
And you started a podcast.
Yeah, I have my
let's talk about your
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you to plug that in.
So I'm really involved in the community. I'm talking about how we're in the Douglas Design District, and I'm on that board. We do have kind of like a membership, kind of a community membership with other business owners and property owners, and another fellow business owner who's just down the street from us, and her and I have just started talking about how we would go to a lot of women's focused events, and I have a history of working in nonprofit that serve women and girls, and we were always at a lot of the same things. So we decided we wanted to talk about all the cool things that women were doing. And it started out as just focusing on women-owned businesses in the community, just right here in Wichita. And then we kind of expanded that to there's just women doing a lot of really cool things like events and nonprofit. And we'd like to expand beyond Wichita, but for now, we're just kind of starting here with a Facebook Live, and we're just getting our podcast going.
Yeah.
So it's called.
What are you talking about? What's it called?
So it's called Ceiling Breakers.
Okay.
So you can find it Ceiling Breakers ICT. ICT is the Wichita Airport code, so we use that in a lot of our
Ceiling Breakers,
stuff.
BREAK.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and yeah, we just interview women every week, and like I said, some of them are business owners, or they're high up in their companies, and some of them are just doing some grassroots efforts, and just again, a lot of it's showcasing small businesses in the community and just all the cool things. Because when you live in a small community, anybody can relate to this. I think anywhere, it's always like, oh, there's nothing to do here, and people want to get away, and there's always something bigger, there's always something better. Well, in Wichita, you cannot say there's nothing to do here. We have so many things
there's a lot
happening all the time, and so we're really helping to promote that. And there's
pound for pound.
Yeah.
Actually, you have what, 300,000 people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the largest city in the state of Kansas.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because Kansas City's in Missouri.
Yeah,
or
most of it is. Yeah.
But given like pound for pound per capita, you have a lot of different things. Art, restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
breweries, music, and things like that. Just in the 48 hours I've been here.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of
We
that.
have a rich arts and theater scene, which you wouldn't expect in Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we do, is help promote that. And then hoping that when we're highlighting maybe some of these women who are in more male-dominated industries, or maybe something that other young women might not think of, and we're getting them to stay in Wichita, hopefully want to stay here and work here. That's a big push too. We have a great university, Wichita State University, and we want to in great technical schools and everything, and we want to really create and retain that talent.
Yeah. So you want to inspire people and show them that there is a path here. There is something to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell me about a time when things went really wrong, and what did you do about it?
When we first opened, we lost a couple of beers, which means something went wrong, something like went bad, it can easily happen. A lot of people don't realize that over 75% of brewing is just cleaning, keeping everything really clean. It's very sterile in the brew house. It's why we have a door. It's separate, glass separate from the tap room, and anything can happen when in the fermenters if something's wrong with the yeast or some kind of bacteria gets in. And so we lost like more than one beer, like a couple of beers, and we'd already, like I was telling you earlier, we'd already been running out of beer. And so we just had this moment where we had to communicate it without being like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. Like, it was just, and luckily that's only happened a very small number of times in the last 4 years. So, but right at first it was a little tricky
to get that
going. So we let people know. We had, at that point, we had already started to have a good following. We'd been open. We'd been open like the whole summer, that first summer, and people that were coming in, and we only had a couple of beers on tap. And so we just let people know we're new. It's been great, but we're just kind of dialing in our system, and just kind of told the truth without going on and on about it. Yep. He definitely Dory didn't want to go on and on about anything going on, because he wasn't sure he figured out what went wrong, which was good, and then was able to fix it, and it was fine, and we were able to catch up. But it was just kind of a stressful time. We were new. Whenever you're new, talking about the distribution, restaurants and bars want to have you on right away. Well, we just weren't quite ready for that. So we were trying to send kegs out. We were running out of kegs here, and it was just kind of a stressful time. But
natural growing pains.
Yeah, people understood that, and I think people like that transparency. People like that. We're just always realistic. We're We're not too flashy. You can see if looking around here, it's very, we left when we thought it was brick behind here. This building was built in 1930, so we weren't sure. We have kind of this industrial looking concrete walls, but we decided to just leave it.
Yeah.
We're going to put up sheetrock and
fits.
Yeah, and we like to just kind of tell it how it is, and that worked out well for us.
That's awesome. And you have a huge walk-in fridge? Is that what that is?
Yeah, so that's the cooler. So we tap right into the
And that's
cooler.
where all the kegs are.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Keep it simple.
That's cool. And you have a lot, probably a few hundred stickers of other breweries there.
Yes, that's a very popular thing, talking about that camaraderie among breweries. So kind of in that top area where in the middle of the cooler door is kind of all the Kansas breweries, and we have lots of them now. I'm going to say
I see an Austin
50
one there.
breweries.
ABGB. I used to live walking distance there in Austin. You been to Austin before?
And then I have not been to Austin. I don't know why. That seems weird, but
and Founders, they make one of my favorite beers, the KBS.
Yeah, and so when either kind of our regulars and bartenders and just different friends, and whenever we travel we get stickers, and we'll give people our stickers. That's the key. I'm going to give everybody a tip. If you get stickers from another brewery and then you go to a brewery and you ask for them for stickers, a lot of times breweries are like, oh, we're out, which they might be. But a lot of times they say, oh, I don't have any stickers right now. But if you say, can I trade you my brewery sticker, and then for yours, do you have a sticker? And they'll somehow come up with a sticker.
They produce stickers out of thin air.
I mean, we all run out of stuff, but it seems like that's the trick, is you just have to do a trade.
Got it. Do you have any more tricks? You look like the kind of person who has lots of tricks. So what other tricks can you share with our audience?
Well, I just think, breweries, not all breweries are going to be able to offer tours and things all the time, but if you, like I said, if you bring stuff from other breweries, or you can kind of talk with them, they'll be more likely to let you in the back. Gotcha. So that's kind of a trick there. Not always. Tori's kind of the one that does since he does all the brewing, he does the main tours. We're all trained. We train our staff to do it, but it just means more coming from him. So not always going to be available, but usually we have home brewers that will come in and bring in beer and want to kind of talk shop. And so that's a good way to kind of hang out in the back.
Yeah, for sure. What other ways are you involved in with the community? Do you guys do live music here in any way, shape, or form?
We do live music. We don't have a lot of space, so we usually have just solo acts, duos and trios, a lot of acoustic, and we'll just kind of put them in a corner, usually on Saturday nights. And then we do Final Friday art shows. So instead of First Friday, like a lot of cities do, we do Final Friday. So we just had that this past week, and we highlight local artists. We do a lot of events for nonprofits. That's something that's my background, so it's really important to me. So a lot of give back nights and charity events when we can. So we're really involved in a lot of things. I'm on a lot of boards for nonprofits, and just try to get out really involved with the chamber and things like that.
You're a busy lady.
I try to say that's kind of my side of the thing.
You got a lot of stuff going on.
I'm out doing all the stuff while he's here making the beer.
Got it. Very cool. Can you, what is the number one piece of advice? Can you think of the number one for our audience, people who may be either thinking about starting a small business or they're running their small business? In your experience here, what's the number one piece of advice you would share?
You can't be everything to everyone. I think that's where I've seen businesses fail here recently. And just when you hear stories from other, people that have had other businesses, it's easy to do. It's easy to say, we're going to have coffee, we're going to have beer, we're going to have cocktails, we're going to have the best food in town, we're going to be open 24 hours a day, and it's going to be accessible to everyone, and everyone's going to love it. And it's that's really hard to do. I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's just a really hard thing to do. We have benefited a lot from just having, just focusing on the beer. And some people ask, well, why aren't you going to get food? And why don't you do this? And it's we don't even have cocktails. We decided not even to have a full bar.
Right.
And it's just served us just better to just keep it simple. And I would say that, almost with any business, my experience is more in kind of that food and bar industry. But with anything, if you're focusing on, clothing, or you're, inventing something or doing something, an online store, just keep it simple and just start with what you're good at. And you can always expand. And with that piece of advice is, if you want to do a lot of things, you can collaborate. and we collaborate a lot. We collaborate with food to get food here. We've always had a great partnership with our food trucks and other local food vendors. That's their dream. That's what they're doing. They need places to go, and we just want to serve beer. And we've been able to create a great relationship with our pizza. We call them pizza neighbors next door, so they can bring the pizza over, and it just benefits everyone. We collaborate with other small businesses to get other snacks and merchandise and other things, and then they get in turn get the beer, whatever that looks like. Trade or whatever you can do. Collaboration, I think, is the way to get to that level, so you don't feel like you just can't do everything.
Yeah.
So
that is a great piece of advice. Where can people find you? If people are interested in finding out more about you, what are your social media handles? What is your address here? If anybody's in Wichita, they should definitely come by here.
So you can find us at 1710 East Douglas. Douglas is kind of our main strip here. So we're here in Wichita, Kansas. We're just east of Old Town in the Douglas Design District. We have a website. It's hoppinggnome.com. If you Google Hopping Gnome, it will definitely come up. We're Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all at Hopping Gnome.
Okay.
So yeah, we're very active on social media. Like I said, we do a lot of events. I'm doing social media all day long. So you can find us on there. We do sell some merchandise on our website, and we try to keep up with blog posts. You can sign up for our e-newsletter. Yeah. All that stuff. So
awesome.
Check it out.
Well, Stacy, it has been a pleasure and honor
to
sit down and talk to the HBIC at Hopping Gnome. I really appreciate it and wish you all the best, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Small Business War Stories. Small businesses are the soul of America. And this is where they tell their stories. I am your host, Pablo Fuentes.